Now, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're broadcasting from the Global Media Forum in Bonn, Germany. But first, this national news in the United States. In a closely watched case, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled most private companies that claim religious objections can refuse to provide birth control in their employee health plans as required by the Affordable Care Act. In a 5-4 ruling opposed by all 3 women on the court, the justices ruled that requiring closely held corporations to pay for contraception violates a federal law protecting religious freedom. The title closely held corporation applies to about 90% of U.S. businesses employing more than half of the U.S. workforce. The case concerns 2 companies, Hobby Lobby and Conestoga Wood, which objected to certain methods of birth control on religious grounds, claiming they're akin to abortion, despite scientific consensus to the contrary. Critics say the ruling legalizes discrimination against women, 99% of whom will use birth control at some point in their lives. In a biting dissent, Ruth Bader Ginsburg objected to what she called a decision of startling breadth, which could open the door for corporations to opt out of practically any law they say conflicts with their religious beliefs. Quote, "The court has ventured into a minefield," she wrote. White House spokesperson Josh Earnest spoke after the ruling.
Today's decision jeopardizes the health of women who are employed by these companies. As millions of women know firsthand, contraception is often vital to their health and well-being. That's why the Affordable Care Act ensures that women have coverage for contraceptive care, along with other preventative care like vaccines and cancer screenings. We will work with Congress to make sure that any women affected by this decision will still have the same coverage of vital health services as everyone else.
Meanwhile, Mother Jones magazine reports that at the same time Hobby Lobby argued the Affordable Care Act's contraception mandate forced them to violate their religious beliefs, the company spent millions of dollars on an employee retirement plan that invested in the manufacturers of the same contraceptive products cited in its lawsuit. Records show it made large matching contributions to plans that included companies that produce emergency contraceptive pills, IUDs, and drugs commonly used in abortions. On Monday, women's rights groups spoke out against the Supreme Court decision during rallies held across the country. This is student activist Alyssa Canizero, who attended a protest in New York.
When I first heard the ruling today, I felt angry and disgusted. The Supreme Court should not have the right to decide women's personal health issues, and for a company to impose its own religious beliefs on its employees is not right. Contraception is a basic right of women in healthcare, and that is why it was included in the Affordable Care Act by President Obama. It's a basic right that women should have, and if low-income families and women don't have access to that, they're not going to be able to support their growing families. You know, it's your personal decision to decide when you want to have a family, if you want to have a family, not your boss's and not your boss's religious beliefs.
Well, for more, we're joined in New York by Cecile Richards, the president of the Planned Parenthood Federation of America and the Planned Parenthood Action Fund. Welcome back to Democracy Now! Cecile, can you respond to this Supreme Court ruling?
Sure, and I'm glad you covered the young woman here in New York. I think she represents the thousands of people we heard from yesterday all across the country who are outraged about this decision. I think she captured it exactly correctly, which is this is a decision that now allows a CEO of a company, based on his or her own personal beliefs, to deny coverage of birth control for their employees. And this is a shocking decision, and one which I think opens widely the door to challenging laws that employers don't want to comply with based on their own religious views.
I want to read from Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's scathing 35-page dissent, in which she argued that a woman's decision to claim birth control benefits is not equivalent to a moral action on the part of her employer. She noted even if Hobby Lobby was burdened by the contraception mandate, the government has shown that providing no-cost birth control to women is, quote, a compelling interest in public health and women's well-being. She added, quote, those interests are concrete, specific, and demonstrate demonstrated by a wealth of empirical evidence. The mandated contraception coverage enables women to avoid the health problems unintended pregnancies may visit on them and their children. Can you respond to this, Cecile Richards?
Absolutely. I think, look, three things. One, at Planned Parenthood, we've made enormous progress in this country in reducing unintended pregnancy and teen pregnancy. Frankly, the uptake on birth control has been tremendous. The second is we are going to work with folks in Congress. There are many senators who are already eager to introduce legislation that would address the issues raised in the Supreme Court decision. And the third, I think, is really important, Amy, for folks to understand is despite this ruling yesterday, more than 30 million women in this country, because of the Affordable Care Act, are now getting or eligible for birth control at no cost from their employer. We just looked at the numbers from last year. Women in America saved $483 million more on birth control last year than ever before, meaning that we're finally, I think, addressing the fact that for too many years, birth control has been stigmatized and not covered by insurance plans.
I want to ask you about this latest Mother Jones report that says when Hobby Lobby filed its case against Obamacare's contraception mandate, its retirement plan had more than $73 million invested in funds with stakes in contraception makers. What does that say to you, Cecile Richards?
Well, I think, Amy, there's a lot of hypocrisy in this entire case. And Hobby Lobby actually used to cover for their employees the same types of contraceptives that they are now so exercised about. So I think what we're seeing is there has been a concerted effort, and we have dozens of lawsuits by employers now to challenge this birth control benefit, wanting to take it away from women, even some of them, but many of whom already covered it. I think the point is, as you said earlier, 99% of women in America use birth control at some point in their lifetime. For women, this is not a controversial issue. It is a basic health care issue. It's an economic issue. The only controversy is why in the world in 2014 are we still fighting to get birth control covered by insurance plans?